Junpei is the most important and underrated character in Jujutsu Kaisen. While I was rewatching season 1, I realized something. Junpei's story arc completely represents the point of Jujutsu Kaisen as a whole. Junpei's story covers topics like revenge and the value of human life. Not only this, but he plays a major role in the early growth of our protagonist, Yuji. Let me explain. Junpei was a quiet and reserved kid raised by a single mother who was the only person he loved. He was bullied, and I mean bullied, by his classmates. This caused him to build a negative view of humanity as a whole. His very first lines in the show were,
"If I had a button I could push that would make everyone I hate die, I probably wouldn't push it. But
shut up, you guys.
If there was a button that would make everyone who hated me die, I'd push it without hesitation."
Okay.
When we're introduced to him, we see he's interested in Patchface and how he was able to kill the 3 bullies from his school. Junpei asks Mahito if he could do the same thing. Early on, we learn 2 things about Junpei. One is that his idea of righteousness revolves around the actions of others, independent of how he feels, and 2 is that killing is an option for him. Like Junpei said, he wouldn't kill people because he hates them, only if they hated him and wronged him in a way he felt was punishable by death. This causes Mahito to take interest in him. However, as we learn later, he just sees Junpei as a disposable toy. Mahito brings him back to his hideout, and this is where we find out 2 more things about Junpei. One is that he's weird for not being freaked out by whatever this is.
What the hell?
And 2 is that his overall philosophy is based around indifference. He brings up the quote, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference," and says the person who said that must be rotting in hell. To Junpei, hatred is worse than indifference, which makes sense with his background of dealing with bullies. In his eyes, the bullies didn't have to like him or love him. If they were just indifferent toward him, his life would have been way better. Instead, their hatred forced pain on him, which caused him to not expect anything good from other people. Knowing how evil people can be, he says someone's death means nothing to him. This is where Mahito interrupts him and suggests that Junpei's understanding is wrong. He tells Junpei that his philosophy sounds more like revenge than indifference. Mahito goes on to share his philosophy on life with Junpei. He explains that life is inherently meaningless, and because of that, we exist to live our lives however we want. A very hedonistic worldview. Pause. I'll get back to this, but I have a quick rant. This is why I hate when people say JJK doesn't have a story. Yeah, it doesn't if you don't have eyes, ears, or a brain. The story of Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't completely revolve around the events that happen. It's also about the clashing of ideals between different characters and how they evolve from them. We see it early on between Yuji and Megumi, we see it between Junpei and Mahito, and between Geto and the entirety of Jujutsu Sorcerers.
Damn little brat, you're so naive! Idiot! This is war! It's not some fight to correct a mistake! It's a clash of what we believe is right! You and your fragile ideas of justice!
I'm working on a separate video to finally end this false narrative that JJK doesn't have a story. But to get back to the point, this right here is why I say Junpei is the most underrated character in Jujutsu Kaisen. His entire point in the story is to show how characters can have their ideals challenged and ultimately force them to evolve as characters. Junpei leaves his meeting with Mahito with the firm conviction that revenge is right if it's what you want and feel someone deserves. This makes his upcoming encounter with Yuji that much more interesting. Junpei runs into his teacher on his way home, and when his teacher insinuates Junpei was friends with his bullies and that he should offer some incense, Junpei snaps. He lifts his hand to curse the teacher, but Yuji stops him, thinking Junpei was going to exercise the cursed spirit he let loose while spying on Junpei. This scene is subtle but significant as it shows just how much Junpei was swayed by Mahito's words. Junpei quickly becomes friends with Yuji as they bond over a love for movies, specifically whatever this movie is.
Who could ever love me? I'm no longer human.
You're more human than anyone else I know.
It's a monster! Kill it!
Kevin, stop! Don't! If we kill him, we're the monster!
Papa. Bruh, look at this dude. Wait till you see the... No, 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 no. Look at the top of his head.
After spending time bonding, Junpei, still being weary of Yuji because of Mahito's warning, asks Yuji if he's ever killed someone. Aside from being the best way to kill a budding romance, this scene is important because it reveals more about Yuji's perspective as a Jujutsu sorcerer. Yuji lets Junpei know that not only has he never killed anyone, but he's completely against the idea of it. Junpei questions him further, asking if he runs into bad sorcerers if he still holds strong to his convictions. Yuji explains that if he even gives thought to the idea of killing someone, then he'll start to question the value of life. If that happens, then the importance of the lives of those closest to him will also become vague, the exact opposite of what he heard from Mahito. This leaves Junpei conflicted because so many of his experience in the past with bullies were so bad, Mahito's words resonated with him. As he stated, they saved him and gave him power. But then here comes Yuji, a guy he just met who radiates positivity in the dark world of Jujutsu Kaisen, telling him he lives by a completely different philosophy. Ultimately, after thinking it over, Yuji's words won over Mahito because Junpei realized that killing would put a stain on his values of life and death. This would make the life of the one person he loved most, his mother, less important to him, which isn't something he wanted. Oh, and I forgot, this creep brain hair right here was spying on the two the whole time. Like I mentioned earlier, Patchface saw Junpei as a toy. So after Junpei befriended Yuji, Mahito planted one of Sukuna's cursed fingers on Junpei's mother. He did this knowing it would attract cursed spirits to her like this six-titted critter right here. Junpei's mother dies, and Mahito frames the situation as someone with resentment for Junpei or his mother causing the situation. This completely breaks Junpei, and he goes to school on demon time. He knocks out all the students except for Shota and the teacher who watched his abuse. He interrogates Shota, and when this doesn't work, he starts using force. After losing the only life he valued, his mother, he completely fell into darkness. Killing was no longer off limits for Junpei because once again, the evil of people caused him immense pain. Just when Junpei was about to kill Shota, Yuji intervenes. As the two start fighting, Junpei starts saying life isn't about thoughtlessly saving people. He believes that if someone deserves to die, no one has the right to stop that from happening. Yuji, realizing that Junpei is acting and speaking out of pain, pleads for Junpei to talk to him. Yuji stops fighting back and takes a more empathetic approach to understand why Junpei was acting the way he was. After learning about the news of his mother, Yuji invites Junpei to Jujutsu High, where he can be around people who are not only similar to him, but also care for him. While the two are talking, Patchface interrupts their moment and attacks Yuji. Junpei, still believing Mahito wasn't bad, tried to mediate the situation. Then he has a flashback of all Mahito's experiments as Mahito puts his hand on Junpei's shoulder and mocks him, telling him he's pretty much as dumb as the people he hated all along. Mahito uses idol transfiguration on Junpei and he starts attacking Yuji. Before quickly dying, Junpei asks Yuji why. Why did his life have to be that way? Why did he feel like he and his mother were cursed? Why was the world so cruel to him when he didn't hurt anyone? Yuji lashes out and forgets all his feelings and ideals of not wanting to kill and tells Mahito to his face that he'll kill him. This is why Junpei is such an important character. His death ultimately changed Yuji and made him realize what he didn't want to believe, that some curses are so evil that their death is the only thing that's right. Junpei's indifference to the value of life made him vulnerable to the ideals of both Mahito and Yuji, who represented both extremes. In closing, Junpei's story is critical in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. It covers the topics of revenge and how our actions show how we value life. What we can learn from this, and something that I make sure to practice, is constantly being open to listening to others' viewpoints, however being wary of completely overruling your principles. It's okay to slowly change over time, but if you don't spend time with those beliefs, you can easily be manipulated like we see in Junpei's case. It also shows a lack of conviction in what you do believe, which is never a good thing if you're constantly switching back and forth between principles. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll love this video I did on Serial Experiments Lane. I love you, and I'm out. Peace.